Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Warzone In Depth. In today's mini episode, I want to share with you my SMG replacement AK-47 build. I think that this has the potential to become very meta and very strong because basically the Cold War AK-47 might be able to perform like the old FFAR did and edge out a lot of submachine guns in close quarters combat while still being very viable at medium and maybe even long ranges depending on your ability to aim. It's definitely viable in close quarters combat because not only does it have a great time to kill, but it has an unusually fast strafing speed now after some of the attachment reworks that we're definitely going to be taking advantage of today. You can also take advantage of using code DRIFTOR in the store if you're buying Battle Pass or microtransactions or whatever. That does have to be all caps and the O is a 0, thus making this video sponsored by Activision. But if you guys are buying things and you use my code, it gives me a little kickback, which is nice. Or you could just drop a like on this video, that helps me too. So the Cold War AK-47 has always had a really fast time to kill, even since it was launched, but people don't use it because the recoil has been very difficult. However, the recoil has recently been buffed to be much more manageable, especially at medium range, not quite long range, but it's a much more reasonable weapon to fight with now. And to compare time to kills, the Cold War AK-47 will kill in 500 milliseconds, whereas the AMAX time to kill is a little bit faster at 465 milliseconds. I decided to put that one on there because right now the AMAX is pretty much the king of functional time to kill. Even if you need a very specific build to get the accuracy out of it, it's a great comparison. If you want to take a look at it on a graph, this one's from TrueGameData.com. Shout out to TrueGameData, who makes excellent resources for Call of Duty. You can see that the AK-47 in Cold War is consistently killing very slightly slower than the AMAX at pretty much every range. However, when you compare the AK-47 from Cold War to the most popular submachine guns right now, which is the Modern Warfare MP5 and the MAC-10, you'll see that this actually kills faster than either of them at all ranges, especially in that medium range category after about 15 or 20 meters, but even up point blank, just up close in their faces, it still kills faster. And this is pretty much true for all the submachine guns. I do think that the ISO and maybe the Striker with the special ammunition might kill a little bit faster, but it kills faster than any of the popular submachine guns at the moment. So after the buff, people know that the AK recoil went down, and most YouTubers and streamers have kind of been trying to use this as a long-range AMAX-like weapon, kind of trying to build a new AMAX out of it because it's got the damage and the time to kill, and the recoil is a little rough, but we can make it work. I decided to try it out up close. I wanted to see what I could do up in people's faces with this weapon, and it was fantastic. I'm about to share with you my optimal build, and you'll notice that not all of the gameplay in this video is with the optimal build. Some of it's a little bit older when I was still experimenting, but this is what you want to put on your AK-47. You want to use the ultralight barrel to increase your strafing speed, 45 round speed mags, the agency suppressor, the Raider stock, and the reflex 1x sight, and you are going to have a very fast-paced, very fast-handling SMG-like AK-47, almost a better AK-7 for you. Now, I like the 45 round speed mags because they have no ADS time penalty. They have extra ammunition, and I think it's 200 milliseconds faster reloading. So little bonuses all around with no apparent downsides. You can run 60 round speed mags if you want to spray people down a bit more, but it adds 2 frames to your ADS time, which, given the fact that we're competing with SMGs and cutting corners here, I wasn't super comfortable with. Also, the Raider stock has a couple of interesting effects that I should talk about. I think you all understand the other attachments pretty clearly. This one will give you a negative 84 millisecond sprint to fire time, which is much faster, and that's 117 if you're doing your tactical sprint to fire time. So you can go from sprinting to shooting this gun way faster with the Raider stock than you can with any other attachment. And most importantly, it gives you plus 39% strafe speed that's going to stack with that ultralight barrel and continue to let you strafe faster. Now, the downside is you get 60% wider hip fire, making your hip fire much dumpier and much less appealing, but we weren't really trying to hip fire with this weapon to begin with. It was more of an ADS and strafing gun, but it's really effective, and I think the Raider stock is just the best attachment for it. Basically, when you've kitted it like this, it strafes super fast while shooting, so you can play a little bit Quake or Overwatch-like and back and forth strafe people. You can single side strafe people. You can get a lot of mobility out of your gunfights where you couldn't with a lot of weapons while you still maintain really good damage over range. You do have bonuses to your sprint out time too, which is really clutch when you're getting up in people's faces, but we already talked about that. Another benefit is that the bullet velocity and range will of of course be far better than any submachine gun and better than you can manage the recoil for. All of the bullet velocity and ranges on the SMGs are going to start falling off after like 15, 20, maybe 30 meters. This one will be solid for 50 to 100 if you can control the recoil. Now the true downside is that the recoil is high. It's still not a super low recoil weapon. It's kind of like an AMAX with no attachments. And if you put the attachments on here that reduce the recoil, ultimately you're going to slow yourself down. So in order to compensate for this, instead of using the iron sights, which I found to be a little bit small, I decided to sacrifice an attachment and use that big clear like Millstop Reflex 1X sight to help myself compensate, because it's giant, it's clear, the dot floats really, plainly, and even if the gun does kick a lot, it's still very easy to track targets with that particular optic. And in my opinion, you aren't supposed to use this weapon at long ranges. It'll work up close wonderfully, it'll work well at medium ranges, but at long ranges, I would probably just do a tap-tap, like 1 or 2 shots at a time. It's not going to spray people down like the M13 or the old Grau or something like that. So yeah, the Cold War AK-47 works really well at a lot of ranges when you kit it for speed. You'll strafe and be more mobile than most people are prepared to deal with, and I think it's super strong. If you don't mind the iron sights, I minded them a lot. I found that they made me a little bit less accurate. But if you don't mind them, you could take off the optical attachment and put on a regular steady aim laser, the first one, because it has no ADS penalties, and that'll basically fix the hip fire. I think it'll still be slightly worse, but pretty close to the same, but you still have to sacrifice that reflex sight, which I found a little bit too strong to sacrifice, but it depends on your comfort with the weapon and what you're using. Guys, that is all for this super short episode of In Depth today. I didn't want to waste your time. I just wanted to show you the good stuff as fast as I can. I hope that you learned something useful in today's episode, and I hope to see some of you guys trying out this really nasty AK build. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.